Excellent. We seem to have gotten a bunch of folks coming in. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, everyone.
Since this session is all about bringing yourself into Scratch, we'd love for you to share in the chat where one thing that speaks to your identity. So maybe it's a favorite activity, an important food, a family pet, a key item of dress, a beloved book character, really anything that sort of speaks to your unique background and culture or personality. I'll share I'm calling in from the West Coast of the United States. My thing right now is rain. I don't think you can hear it in my background, but it is raining at the moment. But with rain brings a lot of beautiful evergreen trees. So that's something I'm bringing with me today. Tracy, what are you bringing today?
So I am originally from Hong Kong, but I live in London now. So it's not something that I'm bringing with me right now. But one thing that's very important to my life, both in Hong Kong and London, is the public transport system, which I know is not like the same or available everywhere else in the world necessarily. So, but that is very important to me. So you can see that in my background. There's also this like London poster a little bit. So I think there's also this tube sign on there, probably because that's like a very important part of our life in London, because public transport is faster than you driving due to the traffic jam. So that is what I am bringing with me today.
Excellent. Well, you've now met us both, but as we said, we're Tracy and Maren. We are both members of the Scratch team. I am a Scratch learning resource designer with the team, and you can find me on Scratch at Algorithmer or Scratchly Catterton. Tracy, you want to share about you?
Yep. So I am the Outreach and Engagement Manager at Scratch. And then my Scratch username is PandaTT. That's basically my favorite animal and my initials. Hopefully that's not so hard to remember.
And helping us out in the chat today are a few of our other team members. So we appreciate them, JC and Jarvis. So let's get into it. Go ahead.
Great. So today, thank you so much for joining from all these different places. So we want to make this hour really fun and dynamic for you. So we have quite a lot planned. So first of all, we will spend some time exploring creative learning with Scratch with all of you, because that's like the foundation of everything we do at Scratch. And then, of course, we will go straight to the topic of the day, which is to create an original sprite, your own sprite. And after creating that, we will have time to code your sprite as well, to bring it to life by adding motion, story and stuff like that. And then we will spend the last portion of our session on some debugging, reflection, sharing strategies, and how you can extend this lesson for your learners as well. And then wrapping up with some next steps resources. So in this session, we hope that all of you, the participants, will be able to identify some unique attributes of your own personal and cultural identities. So kind of looking inward a little bit, reflecting on yourself a little bit, and then based on that, create an original character in Scratch. And then using that character, you can create some animated narrative or some interaction activity by coding it, bringing it to life. And then again, we will reflect and then do some sharing with your peers and also even with a wider community.
One thing we always love to share is about Scratch's story and also about our creative learning philosophy. So for those of you who don't know, Scratch's mission is really to provide young people with the digital tools and opportunities to imagine, create, share, and learn. It's a free platform, and it was started in 2007 at the MIT Media Lab. In 2019, we actually became our own 501c3, which is 100% philanthropically supported. And today, there are over 300,000 Scratch projects created every day by young people around the world. And it's always amazing to see what is coming out of our Scratchers and all the amazing ideas that they explore. Scratch pioneered block-based programming, which really enables young people to learn to code creatively and interactively. So the software was deliberately designed to allow folks without previous coding experience to write programs through playful tinkering and experimentation. And people can use this to make all sorts of different projects. So animations, games, digital stories, lots of different types of projects can be created by simply dragging and dropping code blocks to create your Scratch project. We do have 3 different platforms that we utilize. There is Scratch, which we'll be showing you today. Oh, it looks like I have some things flipped around here, my images, but we have Scratch, Scratch Junior, and Scratch Lab. Those are our 3 different platforms. And Scratch Lab, for folks that don't know, is a place where we can host some experimental blocks that we are testing. Our learning philosophy is really, we want to design and create things that support young learners 5 to 16 typically to develop their thinking, their voice, and their identity, all things we're going to try to explore today. So thinking skills include tinkering, problem solving, hypothesizing, testing, iterating. Voice is self-expression, right? The ability to communicate with others and share things in this digital space that are important to them. And then identity, of course, is the pursuit and development of personal interests. So it could be joining a studio that aligns with one of your sort of interests on Scratch. It could be sharing projects that foster a sense of self-awareness and things that are important to you with others. And really, this helps our Scratchers, we believe, become better community members, but also just really passionate about what they're creating over time.
So let's also talk a little bit about creative learning, which you will hear us mention all the time. Because for us, Scratch is not just a product and a platform and a community, which is all really great. But for us, equally important or even more important is kind of the philosophy, educational philosophy behind all of our work. And that is creative learning. And our kind of definition of creative learning is that someone is engaged in creative learning when they are developing ideas or things that are meaningful to them or to others that they care about. So hopefully what we're doing today, which is bringing yourself into Scratch, is also like fit very nicely in that definition. We're doing creative learning. And creative coding is a type of creative learning experience that involves coding and or computing. So if we put our educators and or teachers facilitators hat on, then we really want to develop an environment or culture or mindset to facilitate that playful learning and tinkering mindset in our learners, which we will talk a little bit more about what those might look like. So one way to kind of go through the creative learning process is using this creative learning spiral framework. So this framework goes from imagine, create, play, share, reflect, and then going all the way back to imagine again. So it's a spiral, it never ends. It's an iterative process. So basically, you imagine something in your mind, some idea, possibilities, and then you create that in some tool, maybe Scratch or other things. You play around with what you have created, which is in the shape of a project, and then you share that project with your peers and get feedback and so on. And we always say that there is no learning without reflection. So there's always reflection at the end to think about the process, the project itself, what you have learned, lessons learned, takeaways, and so on. So as facilitators, we would guide the learners throughout this whole spiral process. And then another kind of guiding principle and framework that we use for creative learning is the 4 Ps. So they are projects, peers, passion, and play. So whenever we design a product or learning experience, we want to make sure that learners will have the opportunity to create projects based on their passion. So it might be their personal interests or something that's meaningful to them. So that's passion. And then throughout the process, they would collaborate and share with their peers, and they would do the whole thing in a playful manner. So play is not just, having fun, laughing. That's probably part of it. But more importantly, we talk about a playful mindset, which is not afraid to tinker, experiment, and take risks and explore. So that is more like the play that we're talking about, which is a spirit. So we want to make sure that everything we do, we design, the 4 Ps are present.
Tracy, I'll just add, for those who are furiously scribbling notes, don't worry, we will be sharing the slide deck with you after the presentation. So you don't have to worry about trying to capture all of this now. One thing we also like to consider is a possible 5th P of purpose. And so that could be designing activities with intention, connecting to ideas that are of collective interest. And so as you are creating an original sprite, it might feed into a project that is there for a purpose, for you to communicate a specific message later.
Yep. Thank you, Maren. And then finally, one more kind of framework or principle we want to share with you related to creative learning is this kind of house metaphor that we always use. So we want to have low floors, high ceilings, but also wide walls in the creative learning experience or product that we design. So low floors meaning it's easy for people to enter into the experience, so easy to get started. And high ceilings mean that, if someone really want to go very far and advance to complex things, we will have that opportunity or space for them to do that. And wide walls, which might not be talked about or thought of as much as the other two, is actually making our experience appeal to a wide range of interests and passions, so that everyone can kind of find their space or find the experience relatable. So everyone can find an entry point in the whole experience or in the product. So that's another principle that we want to share with you.
And that actually dovetails really nicely into our idea for today, which is bringing yourself into scratch. And so one of the things that comes up when you have a new school year is really an opportunity to get to know your classmates, build community. And at Scratch, we really have a strong focus on building community. So we think it's really nice when you can bring yourself in, find that entry point, as we were talking about with wide walls, that works for you, and make something personal that you really connect with. Because when students are passionate about what they're learning, they're definitely more engaged. We do have a lesson plan that we'll be sharing as part of our resources at the end of this section. And so I'm just going to walk you through some of the steps in that lesson plan that we have devised so that you can encourage students to bring themselves into scratch. And I think the first step really is brainstorming. And so thinking about what you want to share about your identity. So we asked you at the top with the icebreaker, for instance, if you want to share something about a favorite activity or an important food or a family pet. And so we have a brainstorming sheet that will be shared as part of the lesson plan, where it will guide users to think about different areas of their life. It could be their unique background or culture, or something that is like a favorite book character that they want to share. And once they brainstormed their ideas, then they can sort of focus on one in order to create a unique sprite to represent that area of interest. So then they want to set about designing their sprite. So they pick one idea and they're going to represent it in Scratch. Now, if you're not familiar, in Scratch, a sprite is like a character that can be programmed to perform actions. So we call them sprites, but you can also think of them as characters. And one way to create sprites is to create your own in our paint editor with our paint editor tools. We are encouraging folks in this lesson plan to create at least one original sprite. But if you have students that are very fast, very passionate about drawing, maybe have used the tools before, they might want to create a number of sprites. Yes, I see in the chat that somebody noticed my scratch cat earrings. Yes, I had to wear these today because speaking of sprites, I actually have two hanging off my ears. I have Giga and I have the scratch cat that I 3D printed. Thank you for seeing. And these are just examples of fun, quirky characters that already exist in Scratch that might appeal to your users. But at other times, there may be something like an item of cultural dress or a favorite animal that isn't represented currently in our library. So we want to help folks learn how to create their own so they can feel a sense of belonging. In our Scratch editor, you can go to the sprite menu, which you see there on the screen represented. And when you hover over that cat face, you'll see a number of options from choosing a sprite from the library to uploading a sprite to drawing your own. So I'm going to encourage you to join me in a second, creating our own using the paint editor tools. But before we zip to that, I just want to note that in Scratch, there are really sort of two drawing modes. So there is a vector mode and there is a bitmap mode. So when you upload an image like a photograph, it would be in bitmap mode. And those are fine. It's working with pixels, so it's not maybe as detailed or clear of an image. And it also may be a little bit harder to edit or customize. So when we're drawing today in Scratch, we're going to use the default vector mode that pops up when you are creating. And vector mode is nice because it allows you to draw with shapes, as you'll see when I'm doing a little demo. And it also allows you to really be able to customize sprites, because one of the great things about Scratch is that you can remix and reuse things that you find on Scratch that other folks have created. So if I create my sprite today and you like it, but you want to put your own twist on it, if I use this vector mode to draw it, you're able to go in, change colors, change looks, tweak it so it matches your vision. I'll also point out that we do have some video tutorials available on our Scratch YouTube channel. Again, these are linked in the lesson plan and we'll share these out at the end. But as you're following along today, if you want another refresher, you can also go into that Scratch YouTube channel to find videos that I have made about this. Okay, so enough talking. Let's do some drawing. So I am here in my Scratch window. Looks like you can all see it. So hopefully that's coming in nice and clear. And what we're going to do today is just a little bit of practice drawing a very simple character. So when I'm here, like I said, I'm going to click on my sprite menu. And then I am going to go up to this paintbrush where it says paint. And that pops me right into my Scratch paint editor where I have all these tools available. And you'll see I am currently in vector mode. You can tell that because it says convert to vector or convert to bitmap. So I'm in vector, so I'm ready to draw. So if you would like to join me, feel free to go to scratch.mit.edu, open up a new project. If you log in, what you're creating right now will be saved. If you don't have your login handy, or you just want to free create today without saving it, you can always just hit that create button at the top and you'll get into these tools and we can talk about saving in a bit. Okay, shall we draw, Tracy?
Yeah, let's go.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start off with, as I said, vector tools use shapes. So I'm going to grab my circle shape here, and I'm just going to click on my paint tools. And you'll notice I can pick any size, but if I hold down the Shift key, it's going to give me a beautiful, perfect circle. If I want to color that a different color, I'm going to go up to my fill tools and pick a color. I don't know if I should tell you what I'm creating today and see if you can guess it as I'm going along. But let's start with an eyeball. So I'll give you that much. So I'm going to pick my color and saturation. In this case, I'm just going to choose white. And then maybe I want to give it a bit of an outline. So you can see I can pick an outline color here and give it a bit of an outline. Now let's create the inner eyeball. So I'm going to, again, just create another circle. This time I'm going to fill it in with black because it's my pupil. I can use these tools here on the side to increase or decrease the size based on what I want. And now we'll give it a little highlight. My daughter always loves to do this. So I'm going to grab my line tool here, and I'm going to make sure that this line is white so we can see what I'm creating. And I'm going to just click and drag to create a little eye highlight. If I go back and use my select tool, I can always adjust how thin or wide that highlight is. And then a straight highlight looks a little odd. So I'm going to go here to my reshape tool. And the reshape tool, you'll notice now I have some points that have appeared on my shape. If I select those points, I can do things with them like curve them or make them pointed or straight. So if I curve it, I grab this little handle and I try to adjust, now I've kind of got a nice curvy eyeball. I want two eyes. So I am going to grab my select tool and I'm just going to select everything here and maybe shrink it up just a little bit. That's a bit of a large eyeball. And just so you can see what I'm doing here on my stage, I'm going to delete the scratch cat here by clicking this little delete. Sorry, scratch cat. And now I've got my eyeball. Now let's make two. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use some tools up here. Like, for instance, I can use the group tool to group these items together. And that way you can tell they all sort of move together. I can use a copy and paste tool to make the second eyeball. And now that I have two eyeballs, I can start doing things like creating my face. So again, I'm just going to grab, say, a circle and color it. Now it's covering my eyeballs. So let's make that a little darker so it's easier to see. It's covering my eyeballs. So what I'm going to do is use some tools like backward or forward to send this. I'm going to increase my screen size. There we go. To send these things forward or backward. So now it's behind my eyeballs and I can sort of play with my colors here. Let's get it. Can I get it a scratch cat orange? Okay, I'm being too fiddly. Hopefully you are coding along with me or trying to create a sprite along with me. Feel free. I'm just going to keep adding here to my sprite as we're chatting. So I'm just going to want to keep track of the time. So I'm just going to quickly add some whiskers with my line tool. Again, I can sort of select multiple things by clicking on the paint editor window and dragging. I can do things like change the color, change the line thickness, copy, paste them, rotate them. If I use my little rotate tool here, you see it kind of this little arrow. I can make multiple copies. I can flip things. So I don't want my whiskers this way. Maybe I'm going to flip them horizontal. And now I've got some whiskers on the other side. And I can keep using my tools to do things like, for instance, here I'm going to take a square. I'll make a square and rotate it. And then I'm going to use this reshape tool to select one of the points and remove them. And what I'm trying to create here is maybe one of the ears. So I can give it a fill. I'm going to use my little eyedropper tool here to select the color I want. I'm going to try to match that yellow. Maybe I don't want it to have an outline. And again, I'll just sort of play with it, resize it until I get some ears that I like. Maybe I don't want pointed ears. Maybe I want them rounded. So I'll grab another point and curve it. You can see I can use the tools here to change the curve. And so you can see pretty quickly, this has come together to create a bit of a cat. All right. I'm just using tools, using copy and paste to start to create my sprite. And then what I can do, I actually have a sprite here stored in my backpack. If you're not familiar with the backpack, it's a place in Scratch where you can store things like sprites, bits of code, and other things, sounds. So here I've stored a second sprite, I'm going to hide this one for the moment so we can see. Here's an example of a different sprite where I have this cat created. And then what I did once I created my cat was I actually right-clicked to say duplicate and created multiple costumes so that I could adjust the eyes a little bit and make it look like my cat is blinking. So that's a quick and easy way to get a sprite going. I am by no means a fabulous artist, but I managed to create something here. And I think there's just a few tools here, but it's nice, especially for beginner illustrators who may be overwhelmed by other drawing programs. Really, with just a few simple shapes and lines, you've seen how we've got this to come together and to create something that I think looks pretty representative of my little cat. If you have been creating along with me, I would love to see what you have been making. One of the things once you've created a project in Scratch is up here at the top, you'll see I have this orange share button. And if I click that, then my project is shared and I can grab a link and post it here in the chat so that other people can see the sprite that I've been working on. Your sprites and your projects can be shared or unshared, but no one's able to see them until you share. So as you are creating, as we're talking and you're following along, please feel free to share your project and put it in the chat. And maybe we'll have an opportunity at the end to share a few of those from our screen. I also wanted to share just some examples of some really nice sprites that others have created in Scratch that I've found really inspiring. One of the things we've talked about is bringing yourself into Scratch. And so here's some examples of sprites people have created that represent local transportation methods, local sites like the Eiffel Tower, their pets, items of dress, food. You might see one there that Tracy created. And all sorts of different things, buildings, structures, things like this fan. Really neat, and also neat to see the variety. Some folks have used the tool. You'll see here, one of the things I didn't do was there's a paintbrush tool here in Scratch. And so you can use that to sort of freehand your drawing. And so if I go back here, you'll notice, I think that's what they did when they created the sushi, for instance. And so whatever your student is most comfortable with, there are ways for them to create something that is very meaningful to them, which is really neat. The other thing I'll just point out before we get to coding our sprite is that sometimes this can be intimidating, right? Drawing something from scratch sometimes takes a little while to contemplate how you want to do that. So we do have in the lesson plan links to some videos and some alternate options. So if folks want to, for instance, create a drawing that they take a picture of and upload into Scratch, we have some instructions to help with that. Or if they want to take a Scratch sprite that has already been created and remix pieces to add different pieces together to create something brand new, we have instructions for that. One of the things I had a lot of fun doing recently was creating a project where I encourage people to do this remixing. And you can see some examples of what people created on the bottom. If you've been on Scratch before, you may recognize some of these elements or challenge yourself to figure out, oh, that came from this sprite and that came from this sprite. Folks have recolored, they've used different pieces from different sprites, and they've created these really fun brand new things. So that's also an option you'll see in our lesson. I'm going to pass it over to Tracy so we can talk about coding your sprite.
Yep, thank you, Maren. Yeah, and I hope everybody has started to create some of your original sprite. We're excited to see that. And as you start to think about how you want to code your sprite as a Scratch project, we also want to share one more tool with you for your learners to use, which is a Scratch design journal. It is linked in our slide. So basically, it goes through in the journal the creative learning spiral, which we mentioned earlier, like imagine and then create, share, and so on. So this is like a handy tool for your learners to use as they plan and play and reflect on the whole project. So since today the theme is bring yourself into Scratch, one idea about a kind of project that you can create is something that is about your sprite. So maybe that's like yourself, or maybe some other artifact from your community or culture. So this little cute project is an example from our online community. So you can see that is a project about the scratcher, and then there are like different things that you can click on and then learn more about. So that's one idea. So you can write text on the screen to say something, and then you can even record your voice using audio. And then maybe even have some interaction if you have more sprites or characters in your project. So let me also share my screen as I show you a little bit about the Scratch interface, especially for those who are new to Scratch. So let me share my screen. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. So this is like a little rabbit bunny sprite that I created because kind of one nickname that I had when I was in middle school is like kind of rabbit or bunny. So that is like kind of me. So I created that. So for those of you who are new to Scratch, I'll talk a little bit about the interface before we start coding. So you'll see that on the left-hand side, there are a lot of different blocks. So these are basically like literally building blocks of your code. So there are different categories like motion, looks, and so on. So you can, even just click on here and it will already show you what's happening on the right-hand side, which is like the stage. So I can turn back on. So if you actually want it in your code, for instance, then you can drag and drop this into this big kind of canvas script area. So that is like the actual code. And then you'll see that on the right-hand side again, stage, where you see everything that's happening. So kind of on stage, that's like the metaphor that we use. And then everything that's like behind the scene, where the director. So on stage, there's also this little green flag here. So now there is nothing, but later on when you have the whole project kind of finished already, or you want to test out, then you can always click that green flag for everything to kind of go into motion. So let's try something. So for instance, move. Then you'll see that the rabbit is moving, and you can always change the number here. Whenever you see a space for you to change a number, you can experiment with that. So if I change it to 50, then it will move, a greater distance. And
Tracy,
then,
can I interrupt you for 1 second? Do you mind
yep.
zooming in? Can you show us where the zoom in so we can see that code a little bit bigger?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. Is it better now?
Yeah, maybe just 1 or 2 more clicks, just for those of us who it's late in the day and we need glasses.
Yep.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Yep. So also one tip, if you're showing Scratch to students or learners in a classroom, then you can always use this zooming in feature as well to show the code. So that is like moving the bunny. And then again, what we saw just now in the example thumbnail, there's this speech bubble. So let me, and also if you stack the code together, then they will go in motion go into action in sequence. So this is actually the speech bubble in looks category. Say something for 2 seconds. I am funny. So then you'll see that. So if I do this, so then the bunny will move and turn and then say something all in one go. And let's go to events as well. We talked about the green flag. That is kind of like the go command or trigger. Then we put it at the very top. So that means when the green flag clicked, then all these things will happen. So I'll do that. Okay, so it moved a little bit and then turned a little bit and say something a little bit as well. So if you want to say it longer, you can always make it, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, or even longer. And then one more thing that is using audio that I want to show you is you can go to the bottom left-hand corner. there are actually some extra blocks called extensions that you can add to your Scratch. So one thing that we might use that might be relevant for this project is this text-to-speech blocks. So if you click on that, then you see that, oh, there is one more new category, text-to-speech, and these are some new blocks. And basically, it is text-to-speech.
Hello.
Did you hear my audio? Okay, yeah, so if I just put it here, then the green flag will click and then it will speak hello. And I can even change the voice first and then speak, and then do all the other things. So there are a few to choose from. So maybe I'll choose squeak.
Hello.
Yep. So this is my rabbit turning and turning. So I can turn the other side for the angle. I don't know how many degrees I have turned. So there's a little bit of math into this as well. So always you can integrate a lot of skills, and then using the speech bubble or even the voice for a narrative. So these are some like ideas to start with. And if your learners are more advanced in Scratch, or they're in like higher grade level, can do more complicated things, then there are also some other blocks that you can try out. And I'll pass that to Maren to showcase that.
Yeah, sure. Happy to. I will share my screen here again. Let me get back to my window. Got to make sure I got the right one going here. Excellent. And so Tracy, I think if you could stop sharing, maybe it'll make perfect. Okay, so now we're back. Just wanted to share in this lesson plan, we have some suggested blocks that students can start with based on grade level or perhaps experience level. And so, you know, depending on what your Scratcher wants to try, they may just start exploring all the blocks. We realize that it's really fun to explore the blocks, but some students feel a little overwhelmed when they enter Scratch. So if that's the case for your student, what you'll find when we share our resources at the end is we have some coding cards we'll share that can be printed out that you can actually give to your student that has pictures of these blocks that are the suggested blocks to start with. Or you can let them explore. So you can experiment based on your knowledge of your class and their experience with Scratch. But we've got some simple blocks here that people might want to try. One thing that's also fun that we didn't demo was this in the sounds category. There is the option to record your voice. So if I click on, we have the code tab, the costumes tab where we were doing our drawing, and then the sounds tab. That's annoying me. I'm just going to get rid of that. So if I go down here to my sounds, I can actually click this record button, and then I can record saying hello to all of you. I can do some fun things with those sounds. For instance, I can make it sound more like a robot. I don't know if that got picked up. There is a truck going behind me, but it adds a fun sort of little static element to make it sound more like a robot. You could make it louder, softer. You could reverse it so it's playing your voice backwards. There are a lot of really fun tools that you can use to play with sound. And that also might be great for learners who are emerging readers or who maybe don't have a lot of strong typing skills yet. If you're typing out things about you, it may be more of a obstacle to overcome. So this is a workaround. They could actually record their own voice saying something about the sprite. And just to show, I forgot to show that text tool. So if they did want to create text on the screen, you could use this text tool to do so. You might actually want to create a whole new sprite and type something. Ooh, that yellow, so bright. Let's make it a different color so we can actually read it. Type something on the screen and then position it on the screen wherever they want it to be. And then there we have it. One of the things I want to point out, because I do see a few questions sometimes in the chat about how to do things like starting over with your code or playing with other things. in the Sprite window here, in the Scratch window here, one of the things that you'll find at the very top is this tutorials button. And when I click on that tutorials button, you'll notice that it gives me options to see a bunch of different types of tutorials. And so if I wanted to say create a story with my sprite, I might click on that tutorials button, click create a story, and then right here on the editor, I've got this really nice walkthrough of some code suggestions and hints that could get me started with something like creating a story. So that is a really fun option that you may want to try with your students. Let me go back here, and yeah, let's do some sharing. I actually I clicked on one that was shared here in the chat. I got a funny bunny. Thank you for participating. That's really fun. I'm gonna they even animated it. Awesome. It looks like the little chattery bunny. I love that. That's really fun. Thank you for sharing. I'll see if I can find a few more that maybe have been shared in the chat and bring them up onto my screen here. One thing is, if you haven't shared, like I clicked on at least one link that doesn't appear to have been shared yet. So if you haven't hit that share button at the top of your screen, then when you share the link in the side chat, we can't see it yet. So do make sure that you hit that share button. I'm going to slip on to some additional slides, but if we have time at the end, maybe if there's a few more shares, I could come back. One of the things that we do want to highlight is the importance of the fact that Scratch is global, and it's also anything that you share on Scratch will be seen by anyone, whether they are logged into Scratch or not. So it's really important for us to remind our young people, our learners, ourselves sometimes, to keep our personal information private. It's one of our Scratch community guidelines, which we'll share a poster that looks like this with you in the resources at the end. But this is one of the tenets of the Scratch Community Guidelines. And what it means really is don't share your full name, don't share your exact location, your school name, things that can really be very personally identifying. One of the things that we can model for our learners is how to make sure that we're keeping our personal information safe. And as we are asking them to create something that brings themselves into Scratch, it is something to keep in mind, that we want to make sure that they are bringing themselves in a safe way. Then let's debug and reflect and do some sharing. One of the things I'm passionate about is debugging, and we have shared in the lesson plan that you will get is some great debugging techniques and tools that you can use with your learners. So this could be debugging techniques like having them read the code out loud. I have on my desk multiple little figurines, rubber duckies, scratch cats. I encourage folks to, if you don't have somebody that you can talk to an inanimate object. Try to explain to it what the code is supposed to be doing. And then sometimes that really reveals where the problems are. Just like when you maybe read a work or a paper or a story out loud, you find the grammar mistakes and the typos. Things like adding in weight blocks, slowing things down. When Tracy was coding, for instance, the move and the turn happened really fast. And sometimes it's hard to see exactly what's going on. So we encourage folks to put in weight blocks to kind of slow things down for a moment until you get a sense of what's happening. Then you can always take those out at the end. Try prompts. When folks are debugging, they may automatically go to the facilitator or the classroom teacher for help. And so one of the things we encourage is to kind of give them some prompts to get them thinking first before you just hand over a solution. So we can say things like, ask some other of your peers before you ask the facilitator. Ask me before 3. Let's test it out. What do you observe? Say more. If they say this isn't working, what? Give me more information, right? Please tell me more. And sometimes in the process of explaining what they're trying to do, they recognize the solution. So lots of ways that you can encourage your students to do some debugging on their own, challenge themselves, have that growth mindset, to try to problem solve before they just dive in with the solution. Another thing I love to point out is that there are often multiple solutions. So one way isn't the only way. Tracy may code a project completely different than me, and we may get a very similar result. And I think that's one of the amazing and great things about Scratch is there is no one right solution. And so what your neighbor has done for their Scratch sprite may look different than yours, but that doesn't necessarily mean that one is right and one is wrong. So it's just things to keep in mind as we're working.
Great. And now let's go to the reflection piece. If you remember in the creative learning spiral, there is like reflect kind of near the end of the spiral. So we always reflect after one activity. So there are some prompts that you can use for your reflection. So what was fun about this activity? Any struggles or frustrations you experienced during the activity? So just now, we hope that you had a chance to create your sprite and code your sprite a little bit. So if you can share what was fun or what were some challenges that you encountered during that process and share that in the chat, that will be great. So I have some glitch with my platform, so I'm not able to see the chat right now. But if Maren, you see any reflections in the chat, feel free to chime in and say them out loud. So also, just like Maren said, there's always often, I don't want to say always, but more often than not, more than one way to code a project to accomplish a task. So in the reflection process, you can also think about, oh, why did you choose this way? What are the other ways as well? If you had more time, what would you add or change to your project? So these are just some prompts that you can use. And also, if you are teaching in the physical environment, then you can encourage your learners to turn and talk to a peer to share their reflections. And if you're doing it virtually, then breakout rooms is always a good way to have smaller group peer discussion, reflection as well. And of course, you can also use Scratch to share your reflection as well, like using the recording function that Maren showed you. So some other ways for reflection, there's a way to create a studio in Scratch. So that is kind of like one place that you can curate many different Scratch projects. So maybe you can have a studio for a certain class of yours so that everybody can see each other's projects in one place, and that will help spark ideas and reflections. And then another thing is if you're in a physical environment, everyone can have their device project open up, and everyone can walk around and go to different people's projects and have a conversation with them, ask them questions, get feedback. So we have this handout kind of share and tell sheet that is also linked in our slide that you could share with your learners, and they can use this sheet to guide them through the conversation as they do the gallery walk and talk to each other.
One of the things, we've seen some really fun things that I'm going to share in a minute. I pulled up a few that I've seen in the chat. But if you are working on a sprite today and you aren't logged in, just one thing to note is that you would need to save it in order to be able to come back to it later. If you are logged in, it will automatically save your project. But if you aren't, if you're on a shared computer or another space at the moment, I just want to highlight there is a way to save. If you go to File and Save to your computer, it will save a file of your project, and then you can always load it back to Scratch later once you're logged in so that you can get back and share it with others. So everything is not lost if you are not logged in at the moment. And then we talked about sharing projects, right? And so definitely hit that share button. Another nice thing to do is if there are some instructions or something that the user should do, maybe click a keyboard key or click on a certain place on the screen. It's always really helpful to share that in the instructions section so that people can get the most out of your project by understanding how to interact with it. Another nice thing to do is to give credit. So if you are, say, remixing someone else's sprite, or using a piece from something that you've found that you've uploaded from the internet. It's always good to use that notes and credits section to provide credit. And one of the things I think, again, where we can model for our learners is that providing credit and providing instructions. So always nice to highlight. Before we move a little more forward, I just wanted to bring a few of these that I've seen in the chat back to the stage. So here we've got we got some mushrooms growing. I love it. Thank you for that. Some oyster mushrooms. I've got this really sweet looking cat here. Love it. Love the motion and the bits of humor. I think that always really makes things and projects super fun. Here I've got another cat. Oh. And then if I type in my name, excellent. So using a few more advanced blocks there, but a really fun way to get your user to interact with your program. And it looks like I got one more here. Oop. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I clicked away. Give it a second. So here it looks like someone's taken one of our sprites and done a little remix and a little dance and some things. So really appreciate you guys sharing how you've brought yourself into Scratch and brought some of your passions in.
Yeah, that's super fun. And we have like animals and then also mushrooms. That's very interesting. New idea for me as well, as I don't usually draw like plants or like even food items a lot. So that's like great idea, inspiration for me. And one way that you might want to extend this lesson is to create an asset pack. So today, I think most of you maybe created one sprite, but if you have like more time, you can definitely create multiple sprites and then all around a certain theme. So for instance, if you're teaching a class on like geography or culture about a place, then you might want to consider creating an asset pack that is on that theme and then have different types of sprites in the pack, like food item, animal, landscape, architectures, and so on. And then you can share this whole pack with your learners, and then they can code and remix all the different types of assets directly from your project. So we have this video that is linked here that you can follow along to create the asset pack.
As I mentioned, you'll get a copy of this slideshow. You will also get a copy of our lesson plan that we've been referencing and those lesson cards that you can print and share with learners. We'll also share with you some helpful links to some of our more general resources like Getting Started and our YouTube channel. So definitely check all these things out as you are practicing with Scratch.
I love the energy from Maren always. This is the first of these series of workshops. There are two more coming up, Exploring Scratch and AI, that's in May, and then Facilitating Creative Learning, that's in June. So you can go to our website's events calendar to sign up. And for future events, we are also going to post there. So definitely bookmark that page. And if you don't want to just go back regularly on your own to check our page, you can always sign up for our newsletter, which the link is also on this slide. And you'll hear about all the events and other interesting things, new features, new programs, new everything. You'll hear about all that. You won't miss that if you sign up for our newsletter. So we highly recommend that as well.